Greetings from Scouse Farm on this absolutely fantastically beautiful day, and I'm very privileged to be here in a site of significance from the English Civil War, or the first English Civil War at least. And I'm in Lathom, which I'd like to thank yet another unusual username, but it's at Striker Maguire 205 for mentioning this stone that you're about to see. So this was someone who watched that video of the stone on Switch Island and kindly let me know that there was another more beautiful stone, or at least more significant stone, where I'm standing today. Not right now, but I'll show you in a minute. I just wanted to show you the hills in the background. Obviously for me, living in a city, other than when I'm down near work in Toxteth and Dingle, it's very rare that I get to see like hills like this, and it really does relax you when you get out of the city into a little bit of fielded areas. So why am I here then? So in 1642, the Civil War, the first Civil War, commenced between the Royalists and the Parliamentarians in England, or in the UK, and it ran from about 1642, the first one, up till around 1646, and it was fought between the Cavaliers and the Roundheads. The Cavaliers were named because they had long hair, so that I think most of the Royalists, who were the Cavaliers, they wanted the royal family to still be in charge of the country, and they had long hair and wore, and like the toffs of them wore wigs and things. And the Roundheads were named because apparently they had short cropped hair. And for those who are old enough to remember Crossroads, I just think they had like Benny bowl heads. So it's like Benny from Crossroads. So it's like someone just stuck a bowl on the head and cut around it. So they looked a bit foolish. But this area where I am now in Lathom was owned, or at least commanded, by the 7th Earl of Derby, James Stanley. And there's quite a bit of crossover there, because you've heard about the Stanleys before from videos when I did in Roby. It was the Stanley Arms pub in Roby, was named after the Stanley family. And like everything, there's only a handful of families who owned nearly all of the land in northwest England, and this Lathom was the family seat of the royalist supporting 7th Earl of Derby, James Stanley. And in 1643, during the first year of the war, King Charles ordered James Stanley to go over and fortify the Isle of Man, because he expected the Scottish to attack and try and take over the Isle of Man. And his French wife, Charlotte de la Tremoille, or something or other, was left in charge of Lathom House. And Lathom House, what's left of it, is that. I don't know if you can see, the sun's in my eyes, but it's actually a private residence now, so it's split into flats, so I can't go walking around there because it's people's property. But it is absolutely fantastic to see what's left of that house. I mean, I can't even see, the sun's in my eyes that bad, but that's it over there in the background. And let's have some sheep there. Doesn't hurt to see some sheep, does it? But yeah, Charlotte was left in charge of Lathom House. So where that house is now used to sit a fortified castle, and Thomas Fairfax, who was the leader of the Parliament forces at the time, sieged this place and demanded that she surrender the house and all of its contents to the Parliamentarians, because they were making ground in the northwest of England and taking over a large swathe of this area. So it was pretty much one of the last royalist strongholds, and that was in 1644 they started this siege. So in February 1644, Fairfax and the Parliamentarians besieged that area where you can see now, which used to have the house stroke castle there. And clever of Charlotte, she said, I need a week or so to discuss this with my household and try and come to terms to see what we're going to do. And then Fairfax and his forces sat off around this area and just kept it surrounded. But in that time, she surreptitiously, along with their garrison, fortified the house and started building battlements and like getting it ready to protect it. And over the time, she invited Fairfax in to have a discussion about terms, and then give him short shrift, or whatever you call it, sent him packing and said, no, I'm not surrendering. It will be dishonourable to my husband, and I'm going to keep here and defend this against any attack. And I think they come to a decision where she would only protect the house, but she wouldn't try and fight them off the land. So that was honoured for a while. But the siege began, and there was 2,000 parliamentary soldiers versus 300 of the garrison that were left there, and they did fortify it quite well because they just couldn't take it. And this land, as you can see around you, there's nowhere to sneak up. So all of this land, the relief of the land, you can see anyone approaching. Imagine you're there now in that house at the top, and you've got a large tower, because they had 9 towers with, I think, 6 cannons in each tower, so 54 cannons facing in all directions. So any of the parliamentarian troops who approached would just be getting bombarded with cannon. And a lot of the people who were in the garrison defending it were like hunters, gamekeepers, farmers, so they all knew how to use rifles at the time, or muskets or whatever, and they were sniping at people as they were coming up. They were keeping them away. So the soldiers were getting demoralized, because every time they tried to attack the place, they were just getting battered back. But the siege itself, after they besieged it for so long, it was lifted on the 27th of May 1644, and that was because royalist reinforcements arrived in the form of an army led by Prince Rupert, and then Charlotte and the rest of her household, or at least the close family, they were able to leave here and get safe passage over to the Isle of Man to join her husband. So that's a little bit of the background. And the one I'm going to show you now, or where I'm going to show you now, this is the stone in question, and this was during the second siege. So in the second siege, which was about July 1645, Colonel Rawstone was left in charge of Lathom House and the surrounding areas, and Colonel Egerton, who was the parliamentary commander at the time, he besieged the place, but this time he had about 4,000 soldiers facing this little small garrison. So the defence didn't last long, and they ran out of supplies and they were starving to death. So Colonel Rawstone surrendered Lathom to Colonel Egerton on the 2nd of December 1645. Right, now I'm going to go and show you exactly why I'm here, because we're about to see a stone which is called Cromwell stone, and this stone is said to have been used for the parliamentary soldiers to like cast their shot. So they used to dig a hole in stone and then pour the shot in, and then therefore they could make their own ammunition on site. So let's go and have a look at that now. But Lathom House, just before I go in to show you this lovely stone, still can't hardly see in the background with the sun, but Lathom House now, that's, as I say, been turned into a private residence, and that, what you can see there in the background, is the west wing. So that's all that remains of that house. And the house itself was designed by Giacomo Leone, who was a famous architect at the time, or designer. And this house, or that part of the house, was built around 1725, but the one that was there previous, the castle, that was built in about 1496. So the original house on the plot was built in 1496, and then it was succeeded by the one designed by Giacomo Leone, built circa 1725, and the main part of it was demolished in 1925, and all that's left is the west wing that you can see today. I've just got a little postie van coming past me now. So let's go and have a look at this lovely stone. And this is on the site of the Lathom Chapel. AD, Lathom Park, AD 1500. And if you do live in the area, I'm sure you know about the chapel, but it is absolutely lovely. Tiny little chapel. Look at that old lamp cover there on the way in. And then now we're about to see the piece de resistance, literally. Ta-da! Cromwell stone. And as I said, look at the indentations where they used to cast the shot. So they'd pour the molten metal in there, the lead or whatever, and then they could form shot inside that stone. So this stone is obviously much more exciting and historic than the one slapped on Switch Island that was apparently to commemorate the improvement of a road that has not actually been improved. But this lovely little stone has been here since 1644-ish. So there you go. This stone was resited here in 1978 from Damstead's part of Lathom Wood by kind permission of the family of the late A.M. Hughes Esquire. And as I said, the hollows in the stone are used for casting shot by Cromwell's army in the siege of Lathom House 1644-45. And it's called Cromwell stone, and it says Cromwell's army because Cromwell was in charge of the forces in the second siege, but Sir Thomas Fairfax was the leader of the parliamentarians during the first siege, which I was talking to you about before. And what I'd like to show you, I'll just walk around. It's very busy. I think someone's either moving in or moving out, because I've seen a few sofas and things get moved around. But I'll just give you a quick look at the chapel. It's fantastic. And next to the chapel you have, these are almshouses, ALMS I believe, all around the back as well, and they're residential and down the front. And almshouses are sort of like old school social housing. So the church used to look after the poor by, let's say, if you worked on the land around here and you were a gamekeeper or something and you done your leg in, maybe you couldn't work anymore, but because you've give good service to the hall in the estate, you'll be given a house to live in, so you don't have to worry about where you're going to live. So it's literally an old school form of social housing. With a gorgeous lamp cover and a modern terrible sign. Keep dogs on a lead apparently. But yeah, this chapel, it's fantastic. I like the tiny chapels because most of them are still in use, or at least being put to good use, instead of a lot of the large ones like in Liverpool where they just get boarded up and left to go to rack and ruin. But even here, look at that. That is picturesque. It's just proper old school. And for some of my overseas subscribers and followers, I think this would be of great interest, because I don't imagine you see many really old chocolate box cottages or whatever you call them in some other countries. Yeah, and these are the almshouses. And the family, the Lathom House family now, the Earls of Derby, their house is now centred on, it's no longer in Lathom, it's now in Knowsley Hall, which is basically in Huyton, not far from where I currently live. And it's not public like Croxteth Hall, so it's still a private residence. And I think the descendants of the Earl still live in Knowsley Hall. But I'm not allowed to film inside there, but I might go around the outside one day and show you. What we'll do now, I'll just walk you around the outside, see what we can see. And I'll try and leave you with something picturesque, or maybe a sheep. A bonfire there in the corner, not very picturesque. There's a polytunnel there at the back, so they must be growing some food in this neck of the woods, which is nice. A little bit of Scouse Farm action there. Right. So I've had a beautiful day. Thank you again to the subscriber who gave me the heads up on this. And I'll just leave you all with that gorgeous backdrop of these almshouses and the sun in the background. So thank you very much for watching. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And Scouse Farm, we'll see you all again soon.